Welcome. We're glad you're here. We're talking about money. Before we do, let me just share a couple things. First, next week is our annual congregational meeting. So this is it's always the first Sunday in December, and this is this is our business meeting. So anyone can come, certainly, and here's what it looks like. We go over the past year. We do staff ministry highlights from the various different departments. And then we look forward towards next year. And then we talk specifically about the budget. And if you are a member, if you've gone through membership class and you are an official member, you then have the opportunity to ratify the budget and say, like, all right, thumbs up, stamp of approval. You have some skin in the game here for New Hope. So anyone can come, but only members are allowed to be a part of that part. Or everyone's there, but that's kind of like the privilege and the authority that you have then. So that's next week after both services. So it'll be after the 10:30 service in the coffee house. We provide a lunch, and then there's a time for Q&A if you have questions about anything. And so that's coming up. Want to let you know about that. Also next week starts this is so crazy. Starts our Christmas series. It is Christmas. Okay, I heard that. Woo, yeah, okay. So I'm guessing for that person, it's probably Christmas was like probably September 1st. You're like, let's decorate, let's go again. It's so weird because for me at least, it feels like it was just summer. Doesn't it feel like it was just summer? And and now we're talking. We're coming up to Christmas, and the year is almost over. So next week begins our Christmas series. So you have on this card on your seat or the seat next to you, and it's two sides. The red side is our Christmas series, and this series is called A Christmas Revelation. Here's what we're doing. Ready? I've never done this before. We'll see how it goes. We might not ever do it again. What we're gonna do is we're looking at Christmas and Christmas passages and Christmas themes in the book of Revelation. Now, we just went through Revelation this summer, right? So you're like, how much more is there? Oh, there's a lot more in Revelation. And it's surprising. It's surprising how much like Christmas and like the birth of Jesus, the coming of Jesus is referenced in the book of Revelation. So this Christmas season, we're going back into the book of Revelation as like all right, what are some things that we maybe missed or just didn't really focus on specifically about Christmas? So we'll spend the next month doing that. And then our Christmas Eve services are December 23rd and the 24th. 2 days, 4 services. You can certainly go online, pick the service that you want to register for, save your seat. It fills up. This place fills up. So if you already know kind of what service you're going to do, my encouragement is to go early so that you can guarantee you're one of the, you got yourself into the room during that service. So that's coming up as well. All right, we're going to jump in. We're going to jump into our series on money. A few people brought this up last service, but no one's really talked about this. Do you guys remember what happened last week? Okay, no one wants to talk about it? Good, neither do I. Okay. Oh man, I don't even know what happened. So my 49ers were beat by the Seagulls, and it was a terrible game. I don't even know how it happened, but I know this, that we don't have to, they clapped last service too. Please don't do this. Don't do that. Don't. All right, this is my last Sunday, guys. Also, I'm done here. I do have to say this, in all seriousness, it was a unanimous decision to never hold one at the church again. Everyone voted, and they said, they just felt so bad for me. That was rough. I think Andy said, every time we do this, the Niners lose and the Seahawks win. So I hope you enjoyed it because that was the last time I will ever. Man, that was really great. So we're into our series on money, and welcome by the way, if I've never met you, I would love to. So even if you're new or you've been here a long time, I hang out, just so you know, in the lobby right here after service every week. So come by and say hi. We're talking about money. This is the last part of our 4-week series on money, and I want to start by asking you this: who has taught you about money? Think about everything you know about money and finances and debt and investments and purchasing and mortgage and loans and your kind of the totality of what you know about finances, all right? Who taught you what you know? I'm gonna guess you're thinking right now, you're thinking through and you're going, I can't think of a name. Most of us, maybe some of us, you had parents who raised you and taught you the value of money, how to use money, how to be responsible with money, how to stay out of debt, credit cards and bank accounts, and and they kind of take you through the ropes and kind of gradually get you into it. That's if you had that, man, you are well above the game. Great job. Others of us, maybe you had a mentor in your life or someone, maybe if you started a business and someone came alongside you and was like, here's how you do it. Again, that's super awesome, but probably not for most of us. I'm gonna guess most of us learn how we manage our money, whether we do a good job or we struggle with it, simply by living life, right? Just the hard knocks, right? You figure out how to manage money by messing up, right? By doing something, by making bad decisions or doing a bad investment or making a purchase or doing a thing and you're like, oh man, that hurt. Okay, I gotta remember that. Don't do that again. And probably most of us, we've never had someone really help us and instruct us on how to handle our money. We just kind of just go through there's no class. I'm even thinking back for myself and my kids now. There's no class in school on here's how you manage money. Here's how you pay bills. Here's the accounts you want to invest in. You want to be thinking about retirement. You're like, I'm 14. Yes, you can start now. If you start now, it will be even better. And you don't ever get that. There's no one tells you here's the funds to put your money in and here's the things to stay away from. And here's how the stock market works. For most of us, it's just a big mystery. You're going I don't know, stock market. They talk about it all the time, up and down, bears and bulls. And I don't know what that is. But no one really shows you, here's how you should think about money and investing and be responsible. Most of us, we never learn to manage our money well. Here's some stats just about Americans in general. Okay, on average, the average American spends, ready for this? 103% of their annual income. 103% of your annual income. Now, quick math tells me that's a problem. 103%. You bring in 100%. And then 103% goes out, right? You could see how this is an issue. 78% of US workers are living paycheck to paycheck. Meaning your paycheck comes in, that covers your bills, your expenses, and then you have no more money. And then you're waiting for the next paycheck to come in. You're not thinking of it, let alone savings or retirement or investing. You're like, I can't even think about that. I just need to get through this month. According to Forbes magazine, 63% of Americans don't have enough in savings to cover a $500 emergency. $500 crisis, a medical bill, a car issue, something comes up, and how are we gonna do this? I know, credit card. Hence, 103% is spent. It's clear, we need help with our finances. So we're talking about finances, and we're looking at it not just from a biblical perspective, but we're looking specifically at the things Jesus said about money, because he talked a lot about money. He talked more about money than he did about heaven, which is crazy to think. Jesus talked about our stuff a lot because he knows just how much of a pull, how much influence it has on our lives. Week 1, we talked about this, and this was the foundation for this whole series, that you are a manager, not an owner. You don't own your money, you don't own your stuff. And as soon as you get into your mindset, this idea that I don't own this, I'm just managing it, it changes how you view your stuff. Because if you remember, when you die, which you're going to pass away, I know that's kind of morbid, but you're gonna die, and then all of your stuff, all of it goes to someone else. Your house, your car, your clothes, your money, it all goes to someone else, which means you are managing the stuff you have until someone else gets it. So what are you doing to manage your wealth? We are managers. We don't own it. We don't get to take any of it with us. We're managing what we have while we're here. Week 2, we said this: because you're managing, you need to learn how to master your money and manage it well, or your money will manage you. And we talked specifically about debt and how debt is the thing that can control your life. If you don't get a handle on money and it gets out of control and you get in debt, every single decision, every single financial decision you make now is in light of this gray cloud of debt over your life of, man, we got this. And you don't have the freedom to make decisions and to do what you want, to be able to even to help people how you want, because you're just trying to get through it. And then week 3, last week, we looked at this: how you spend your money shows what you care about the most. We said that if we could look at, our bank accounts and see where all our money went this past month, we could very easily say, all right, this is clearly a priority. These are the priorities in your life because these are the things you spend money on. Where your heart is, your treasure is also. And we looked at this, that most people, they have income come in, and then what they do is you can spend it 3 different ways, and this is usually the order. You spend money, so you buy stuff, you do bills, whatever it is, you spend money. The second one is you save, and sometimes, so you'll spend your money, all right, and whatever's left, you're like, all right, we have this much left over, all right, let's put that in a savings account or retirement or whatever. And so you put some away for saving, and then the third thing you can do is you can give, and you say, all right, well, we already spent this much, man, we need to put this away for savings. Okay, we just don't have enough. All right, man, it'd be nice to give, but to help someone, to support a ministry or charity or some kind, but we just don't have the money. And what we looked at was the biblical model is reversed. The biblical model is to give what the Bible calls out of your first fruits. Means, here's what I have, I'm giving first. Before I do anything else, I'm deciding on how much I want to give. I want to be generous, and so that's before I do anything else. All right, I'm giving this much every month. I'm giving this away. To fight against greed, to increase generosity, I'm giving this much away. And then number 2 is to save. All right, now how much I have left? Okay, we want to save this much, put it away, invest, put it away for retirement, whatever it is. We want to save for maybe a large purchase. And then out of the rest of that, all right, here's what we have to spend. To stay within budget, here's how much we have to spend. If you do that, you can't get in debt because you're only spending what you have. Today, we're going to look at a 4th thing he talks about money. And Jesus is going to be asked a question, and then he uses it to talk about money. And he does this all the time, where someone will bring up an issue, a question, some sort of dilemma, and then he doesn't just answer that question. He answers something else that they're not even thinking about. He gets to the heart of the matter. He goes right to the motives, and he says, let's talk about that. He's going to do that this morning. And here's what we're going to see. The point of this morning, so that, truth number 4 is this: wealth without purpose leaves you empty, but kingdom investment satisfies the soul. That money for money's sake won't fulfill your life. Having more stuff won't bring purpose or worth. Instead, he talks about kingdom investment. So we're going to look at this, and we're going to go through Luke chapter 12. Jesus has this interaction. He's speaking with a crowd and teaching, and then a guy shouts from out of the crowd, shouts a thing, which is actually kind of funny. And then Jesus is going to tell a parable, a story. And so here's the first thing we're going to see in this interaction with Jesus is this: living to get more stuff is a foolish way to live. That the purpose, if the purpose of life in your mind or your life is say, I just want more stuff. The purpose is to get more stuff, to acquire more things, to build more wealth, whatever it is, to increase my portfolio, to get as much wealth and stuff as I can. That is a foolish way to live. So Jesus is going to interact with this guy. There's a man in the crowd, and he's going to shout out. He's going to tell Jesus to do this thing, and it's so funny. So at least I think it is. Here it is, Luke chapter 12, verse 13. I want you to imagine you're there. I do this a lot. Whenever you're reading the Gospels or a story, even if it helps to close your eyes and just think through, what would it be like to be there in this situation? What am I seeing? What am I hearing? And here it is, Luke chapter 12, verse 13. Someone in the crowd, just out of the crowd, said to him, they just shouted out, "Teacher," this is so good, "tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." This is what he says. "Hey, teacher, tell my brother he owes me something." like, can you tell my brother that what he got, he needs to give to me? Could you imagine telling Jesus that? Jesus is teaching, and you're sitting there, you know this is a rabbi, this is Jesus. And you're like, "Hey, Jesus, can you tell my loser brother that he owes me this, and part of his inheritance is for me?" He's like, the brother's probably there going like, "Excuse me, like, are you seriously talking to Jesus about our personal finances right now? Our family stuff?" And here's his response. So Jesus replies, he's gonna answer this, and then he's gonna move on to answering a different issue. Jesus replied, "Man, who appointed me a judge or an arbiter between you? Who appointed me as the judge between you and your brother? Who put me in this role to decide who gets what?" Then he said to them, watch out. Now he gets to the heart of the matter. So he answers the question by going, who do you think I am? What makes you think that I'm supposed to be the one to judge between you guys on what you do with your finances in your family? And then he says this. Then he said to them, "Watch out. Be on your guard against all kinds of greed." And then he gives this summary statement that he's gonna now then share a parable and unpack this. Life does not consist in the abundance of possessions. Now, inheritance disputes in Jesus' day were common and happened all the time. And they happened because one of the ways that they would divide inheritance when the parents die, especially when the father passes away, was his land and his property and his livestock, his wealth, his portfolio would be divided up amongst the kids, amongst the sons. And the oldest brother got a double portion. He got twice as much as everyone else. So if you have, let's say hypothetically, you have 3 sons, okay, they're each getting a portion, but the oldest gets double the others. So here's how it would break down. The oldest would get 50% of the father's estate, and then the other 2 brothers would get 25 and 25. Now, right out, like face value, you hear that and you go, that doesn't seem fair. That was the cultural practice, and here's why. The reason it actually makes sense, because the oldest brother had the responsibility of carrying on the father's, his name, his business, his property, manage the land. So the oldest brother was like, "Hey, you're getting double because you have to take over all of this. You are now in charge of the family and the finance. You're in charge of all of this when I'm gone. The other 2 brothers aren't, but you are. So you're gonna get double because it's gonna cost you more to manage this." Now, that's the mindset of, like, that's the cultural environment of which Jesus is talking. And listen, I can tell you, as the oldest son in my family, this makes a lot of sense. Right? Any other first, like, oldest sons, you're going like, sign me up. That's like awesome, like a sweet plan, right? I get double. And so this guy's probably a younger brother, and he's going like, "Jesus, tell him that this isn't fair. This isn't fair. Make sure that he divides inheritance with me, like he needs to give me some." And Jesus goes, "I'm not getting involved in like family matters here. But what I will speak to is the bigger issue, and I hear it in your question, it speaks to this, I can hear it in your heart, and that is greed. Let me speak to greed. He says, guard yourself against all kinds of greed. Not just one, but all kinds of greed. Greed is not just a desire for wealth. It is not bad to say, "Hey, I'd like to make more money, not less." It's not bad to pursue a promotion or to maybe change jobs and get a bump or a career, or like to pursue a career in which you're going like, "All right, I'm gonna have some finances." All right, it is not bad to say, "All right, I'm gonna try to increase wealth, not decrease wealth." That's not a bad thing. That's not greed. Greed is something different. Greed is not just like pursuing wealth. It's the insatiable craving for more. It's what happens when you say, no matter how much I have, it's not enough. It's when you live your life going, I have this much, I can't live on this. This is not enough. I need more, and I'm gonna make decisions, how I make business decisions, how I make family decisions. All of it is based on how do I get more. Ooh, that is a problem. That is a real problem. So Jesus, he says this: life does not consist of the abundance of your possessions. He reframes this common worldview that wealth equals worth, and that if you have more wealth, you have more worth. And he says, no, stop. Your life does not consist in the abundance of things. The stuff that you have, the collection of all that you have, that is not what living looks like. That is not the meaning or purpose or the totality of your life. And if you are living to get more stuff, it is a foolish way to live. Here's the second thing. Jesus is now gonna move into a parable, a story that he's gonna share in which he illustrates this point. And he's gonna say this: living to get more stuff is a foolish way to live. And now he's gonna tell us that living to get more stuff, unfortunately, is how most people live. Living to get more stuff is, generally speaking, how we all live, how most people in life, and certainly in America, lives. He tells this parable about a rich man whose land produces an abundant harvest, and now this guy decides what he's gonna do with all this extra resources. Verse 16, it says this: and he told them this parable. He just said this: life does not consist in the abundance of your possessions. And he told them this parable: the ground of a certain rich man yielded an abundant harvest. And he thought to himself, what shall I do? I have no place to store my crops. I don't have enough room. I have so much abundance. Where am I gonna put it all? I literally don't have enough space in my barns for all of this harvest. What am I gonna do with all of this great abundance? Verse 18, then he said, this is what I'll do. I will tear down my barns and build bigger barns. Good answer. And there I will store my surplus grain. And then he says, I'll say to myself, and now here it is, ready? This is now the American dream. You have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy. Eat, drink, and be merry. Doesn't that sound awesome? You know what that sounds like? That sounds like what we're all kind of trained and programmed to think, that here it is, ready? Work your entire life to retire and stop working your entire life. Your job is to work till you get to a point where you can say, I can retire and I can do whatever I want. Live wherever I want, travel wherever I want, whatever, eat, drink, and be merry. Take life easy. That's this guy's mindset. I have all of this extra resources. Okay, I'm gonna build bigger barns. I don't gotta work anymore. I'm done. I'm cashing in my chips. Now, retirement is nice. Now, in the culture today, retirement has this idea of like, listen, work your life, get rich, and then spend money doing whatever you want. Now, how many of you are retired? Well done. Congratulations. Okay. Now, how many of you are filthy rich? Okay. Oh, so you didn't build the bigger barns. This isn't, now maybe you're living life and you're enjoying it, but at some point, we get sold a bill of goods thinking that retirement is gonna solve everything. All my problems are gonna go away, man. My boss, my terrible boss is gone. I don't have a boss anymore. And there are certainly some joys in retirement, but this guy's looking at this saying, your whole life, your whole decades of your life are lived to get to a point where you say, all right, now I'm retired. I've only got, I don't know how many years left, but I'm retired and I'm just gonna just coast. And that's the point of life? To get to a point where you can just coast? Jesus is telling the story going like, hey, he's sharing what the mindset that many of us have. We just wanna have enough money to buy whatever we want, save to retire, buy whatever you want later, have enough to give to the kids, and like that is a good life. And in culture, like, what other option is there? Jesus looks at this and goes, oh, no, that life, many want, but it is foolish. It's lacking purpose. What is it? What's the point? You took up breath, you took up space on earth for 70, 80, 90, maybe if you're lucky, 100 years, and so what? Just to get stuff to then give it away? Is that the purpose of life? This guy does this, and so Jesus says that living to get stuff is a foolish way to live, and living to get more stuff, unfortunately, is how most people live. And now he's gonna give a twist. So at this point, everyone's following along going like, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, he did what I would do. And what we don't realize, what we miss in this is that like in that culture, land and harvest were often tied to wealth. And so like if you had more land, more harvest, you got more wealth. But if you had an abundance, it was seen as a great blessing, but also, especially in religious communities, there was a sense of responsibility of, all right, I have more than enough for me. I'm gonna now share it with those in need. So when you have an abundant crop, it's like, all right, hey, great, God has blessed you. Now what are you gonna do to help other people? And this guy, he builds other barns and he just stores it for himself. So Jesus now, he shares a twist. What happens? Jesus is gonna say, not only does living to get more stuff a foolish way to live, and not only is it how most people live, but living to get more stuff is ultimately, he says this, a waste of your life. It's a wasted life. If you're living just to get more stuff, you've wasted your life, your entire life. The most prized possession you have is your life itself, and you've wasted it on stuff. Here's what he says in verse 20, but God said to him, you fool. This very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you've prepared for yourself? This very night, your life will be demanded of you, and then who's gonna get your stuff? You spent your whole life getting to this point where I've got all this stuff, and then you die. And Jesus says, and now what? Now it all goes to someone else. What was the point? What was the point of your life? To store it all just to give it away. And then he says this is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich toward God. This man was a fool, he says. He was not condemned for being wealthy. No one's ever condemned for being wealthy, but rather for his greed and his mismanagement and his selfishness. The amount of times he says, I and myself, 6 times he says, I will do this and I'll build it for myself. And he speaks in a way that all of us are like, yeah, that seems reasonable. And I think part of it is because we're just trained this way. From an early age, I think, if you think when you were a kid, like in your mind, money solves everything. And the more money you have, the more stuff you get. And you see your parents may be struggling, you're like, I don't want to struggle, I just want more money. And so what happens is, even when you're young, you're thinking in terms of money. And hey, what do you want to do when you grow up? Like, what kind of career do you want to have? And here's what everyone always talks about. Pick a career that makes money. That's it, make money. So I have 4 kids. I have 3 boys and a girl, 2 in high school, 1 in middle school, and then the girls in elementary. And the older ones, like the boys are kind of at an age where they're like thinking through what they want to do, and like when they grow up, and how closely they want to be just like me. Yeah, okay. Was that them who laughed? Was that? And so, but really, like, all right, so what do you want to do when you grow up? And I won't share who said what, but one said that he wants to be a surgeon. I'm like, oh, really? Okay, right? And my wife's a nurse, and so it's like medical. They're like, they can be medical nerds together, and I'm just like, I've got a weak stomach, so I'm like, I can't help you, man. Like, I'm good luck. That's awesome. Like, that's a great goal. Another one is still kind of trying to figure it out, and was like, it probably gives the answer of like, I want to be a professional athlete. Okay, well, you've got the genes. You could do it. You could totally do it, right? And then another son, who I won't say their name, and he's in this room, he said this: when I grow up, I want to marry someone who's rich. That's your goal? That's the plan. Yeah, it's a good plan. I don't want, what do you want to do though? I just told you. Like, what do you mean, right? Like, first of all, like this person who in your mind is super wealthy, what is it that you're offering? Like, what are you bringing to the table? Like, what is it? Why do they pick you? And he's like, well, like for whatever reason, we think of life and we think, oh man, I just more money, just need more money, just more stuff, and then it'll be solved. And that's this. And this guy, he lives his whole life wanting more, storing it up, and then God says, that's it, you're done. And none of us know that day that we're gonna die. You don't know it. We don't know it. We're not told it. You don't know. You don't know if you're gonna even get to enjoy this kind of nest egg that you're building and like the life you don't even know if you're gonna get to that point. And this guy was trying to do it, and Jesus says, oh man, that's such a foolish way to live. And he says, this is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves. If you're just building a life of just more stuff, he says, it's gonna go like that. You're gonna be gone, and it's gonna go to someone else, and it's like, now what? Now what? Your whole life. Instead, he says, you should be rich toward God. How do you do that? Being rich toward God means doing this. It means generosity. It means fighting against greed and the selfishness and the I'm accumulating everything for myself, instead saying, no. I'm going to rethink how I view money. Instead, money, I want to make my money work for me. I want it to give meaning to life, and I want to use my wealth and my resources to provide purpose for other people and to invest in other people's lives. Oh, now we're talking. It's not about just more stuff. Like after a while, more stuff gets boring, right? How many of you have the new iPhone? Doesn't it feel surprisingly like the last iPhone, right? You're like, this is no different, right? This cost me how much? It has an extra button that I'll never use. You know, like at some point, the new stuff fades. Christmas is coming up. And we're all gonna give gifts and get gifts, and like it's gonna be a whole thing, and it's fun and it's good. Like we should, but I know this, and I don't like this has been our experience, and like this is in our house. December 25th comes, it's Christmas, it's opening gifts, and you play with your stuff, and it's like awesome. And then December, never fail. December 26th, I already know what I'm asking for next year. What? You're already thinking about next year's stuff. You just got all this stuff and it's already old. You already want the next thing. And that's never fail in our mind. Like this desire for more stuff, it just cannot be, it's insatiable. It cannot be fulfilled. And so you can live your whole life chasing that, or you can say, I'm out. I'm not trying to get more stuff. Instead, I want to provide meaning for myself and in other people's lives. I'm going to use my resources in the best way that I know how, and that is to help the mission and the kingdom of God expand, to be rich towards God, and to specifically the Great Commission of going and making disciples and like seeing the gospel spread. Okay, now we're talking about changed lives. Now we're talking about people who are getting baptized, who are going, Jesus changed my life. All right, I want a piece of that. I want things that are eternal. These eternal rewards are investments in people. So how do you do this? You can support, some of you do this, you can support missionaries. There's missionaries all around the world who need financial support because they are going into places and sharing the gospel, and they're like front lines doing this. Awesome. We support missions here. We have missionaries we support. Maybe you have personal missionaries you support. Awesome, you can do that. You should do that. You can support local ministries or global ministries where you're like, oh, there's this other church, like parachurch ministry, or this other thing that they do. Man, this is close to my heart, and they're changing lives in this category, in this area. They're helping, the poor and the needy. They're helping feed people. They're helping house people. They're helping, whatever it is. Like, all right, I want to be a part of that. I want to help. I want to support that. You can support this church. Now, I want to give a caveat here. You should only support this church if this is your home church. If you're just like checking things out, don't worry about it. But if this is your home church, you can, and certainly, are a part of the mission when you give and support the church. The local church, this church, or maybe you go to another church, you support maybe you're here vacationing, you have a church, all right, support your church because the church is carrying out the mission of God. So how, there's easy ways to do this. You can give online, you can give on the drop boxes. Many of us have started recurring giving. You can set that up online where it's just, it happens every month. You don't forget, oh, I forgot to tithe. You could set that up. So I thought it would be interesting if we go through, most churches don't do this, shockingly, but we certainly want to be transparent with all our finances. Next week, we talk even more about finances, but I want to share where your money goes. When you give to New Hope, what happens? When you give $1 to New Hope, where does it go? What happens to it? Most churches just go, thank you very much, and we'll take it from here. I'm going to show you where your money goes. So of every dollar you give, here's what happens. 16% of it goes towards operations. And this is just the things that make ministry and church work. So this is all stuff in the office and printing and all of the infrastructure and all of the things that are all right, this is just this is what it takes to just operate and run an organization. Even a nonprofit, even a church, here's what it takes, all right? 16 cents of your dollar goes to that. And then this is way higher than the national average. 26 cents of this goes to family ministries. Over a quarter of the dollar that you give goes to the next generation, to kids, to youth, to the people that oversee them. And all right, we focus heavily on kids ministry and youth ministry and the next generation. And so 26 cents of your dollar goes towards family ministries. And then 31 cents of this dollar goes towards adult ministries. This would be towards Sunday morning and small groups and men's ministry, women's ministry, and all the things that happens now for the various adult ministries that we have for everyone in the church. All right. And then this is awesome. 10% of it goes towards missions and outreach. So just like we expect, we're told to tithe, personally we tithe a tenth. We as a church, every dollar that comes in, a tithe goes out to support missions and outreach. All right, hey, 10 cents of that is going to go out towards supporting missionaries and outreach. All right, so when you give to New Hope, you are tithing to outreach organizations and missions as well. And then one that none of us really think about, the price, but we enjoy it a lot. 17 cents goes towards the facilities, the building, the heat, the lights, right? Isn't it nice that we have lights on? Isn't it wonderful that when you come in, it's snowing outside and you're like, oh, it's so warm in here. All right, all of that is energy and facilities and the upkeep and this property and I don't know the size of your we're sitting on 13 acres and it all, it's okay, it just takes finances to support. Now, when you give $1 to New Hope, that's how it breaks up. I can tell you this, no one's getting rich here. This is a ministry. We are on a mission. So there's no shortage of opportunities to be generous. If this is your home church, I would encourage you to give. If there's missionaries that you know of, I would encourage you to support them. If there's other local ministries in town, man, support them. The cure for the greed and the accumulate all the mine, the stuff, the cure for that is generosity and saying, all right, I'm gonna give it away. We're gonna give it away. And start small and build your way up. This is, I told you, I shared this last week. I didn't grow up in church, so this is hard for me. This was hard. This was a weird thing. My wife grew up in church. She's like, no, this is what we do. We tithe. I'm like, what? 10%? Do you know how much money that is? Right? I guess back then it was, do you know how much money that isn't? And so for me, it's been stretching, going all right, okay, yeah, of course, we're gonna give towards the mission, and it takes fine. Of course, it takes. I'm gonna give my resources to things that are investing in the eternal. Here's the point. Ready? Living to get more stuff. If that's your life, it's just to get more stuff. Jesus says it's ultimately a waste of life. He says, "You fool." You don't even know he shares a story. You don't know that your life's gonna be taken. And then what? What did you do with all that stuff? You could have invested in so many lives and changed people and really invested in things that you could be rich towards God and invest in eternal things. And instead you just hoarded it. You just kept it all for yourself. Now, I also understand that as we talk about money, that some of us are I don't know how to manage my money. We're talking about money. I need help in this area. Awesome. we would love to help. So come the new year, so we'll get through Christmas, the craziness of Christmas. Come January, we'll have our next Financial Peace University class in which we'll be talking specifically about, all right, here's how you handle finances from a biblical way. And if you've taken the Financial Peace, often referred to as FPU before, you know like how good it is. So if you're in a situation where you're going, I don't know like what to do, my finances are a mess and we're trying to figure it out, take this class. It'll be led by a financial consultant who's a killer dude who knows what he's talking about. And you meet every week and you have homework and you're like, all right, you go through this either as a couple or if you're single or whatever. All right, we want to get a hold of your finances. So of course, we'll share more as we get closer to it. It'll be in January after you've spent all your Christmas money and you have nothing left. And you're like, I need help. All right, great. We're here to the rescue. So that's coming up. So think about that. Even as if you're married, like talk with your spouse. Maybe let's think about it. Let's make a commitment to this. When it comes up, let's really seriously think about joining this class so we can get a handle of our money. Now, Jesus teaches us that how we handle money is not just practical. This is a spiritual issue. We're told that living to get more stuff it really is a foolish way to live. It's how most people live. And Jesus says, you've wasted your life if it's just about accumulating stuff. Instead, you find meaning and purpose and worth in how you use your finances to help others, to invest in other people. Oh, man. No one ever gets upset by saying, I gave too much to charity. I gave too much money to help other people. I wish I would have kept more money for myself instead of helping other people. Oh man, I got to the end of my life. I should have just hoarded it. Nobody gets to the end of their life and says that. So for us, wealth, we know this, wealth without purpose leaves you empty. But kingdom investment, Jesus talks about this being rich toward God, it really does satisfy your soul. Would you stand with me? And then I'm gonna pray for us and then we'll worship the Lord together. So if you would like prayer, you need prayer, we will have a team who would love to pray with you in the corner, so they'll light up with the blue walls. And whether it be about finances or just life, you just want prayer. We would love to be praying with you and be praying for you. Would you bow with me as we pray? So Lord, we recognize that finances is a tricky subject and it is so personal to each of us. And we're all in different spots. Yet we also know that where our treasure is, there our heart is also. And so will you help us? Will you help us? Give us wisdom, give us insight on how to manage our money well. Not to store up for some rainy day, not to build bigger barns and put all of our stuff in it, but instead to think through how can I use my stuff, my resources, the things that God you've given me, to manage, not to own, but to manage. How can I use that to help the most amount of people I can? To make eternal investments. To make investments that truly do last and truly do matter. We worship you now, Lord, and we thank you. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Let's sing together.